Hello once again, everybody. CJ here. Welcome back into my life. I am your local friendly technology addict, and you're watching the Tech Addict's Attic. Can you hear me now? Good. As you can see, I'm using a different microphone. This one that I was using had no ear pads on it, was constantly needing to be adjusted, and frankly, this thing being in my mouth all the time was aggravating as hell. But it also had this 60 hertz buzz on it that was really irritating. I never found out the source. It didn't matter if I had the phone charging or not. It didn't matter if I had it anywhere near an outlet or not. It was a constant 60 hertz buzz. I can only assume that the phone's audio circuit was injecting it into the microphone. But I digress. I'm not using it anymore, so it doesn't matter. Here we are on a stand mic that's about, 30, 35, 40 years old, and was intended for a computer. It was back before they color-coded the plugs because, back then people knew how to read and they knew how to tell iconography, and they could identify a microphone jack based on the fact it went to a microphone plug based on the fact it went to a microphone. You didn't need it to be pink or red or violet or whatever color. But again, I digress. We've really declined in our education system. Anyway, I haven't done a video in a while. There are several reasons for that. The main one being I haven't had time. Second one being I haven't been doing anything electronic-wise. Third one being why? I didn't have a microphone, didn't have a good camera. One day I'm going to get a better camera than this. One day I'll get a better microphone than this. One day I'll start editing the videos instead of trying to do them in one take and spending 3 hours in the process. But basically, I haven't been doing anything electronic-wise, and so that's really what my channel is about, is the electronics projects that I do, that and fountain pens. And I haven't bought any fountain pens lately, so mainly because all of my money is going into other things right now, more important things, and that's the bottom line. Other things are more important right now. But I have about 6 months ago purchased a computer, a desktop business class small form factor system. $40 got me a third generation Core i5 quad core processor running at approximately 3 gigahertz. This machine has 4 gigabytes of RAM in it, 250 gigabytes of hard drive space, and a slimline DVD-ROM. It has 2 PCI Express X16 slots, one of which is wired for X4. Both of them are Vision 3, according to the manual. And 200 and some odd number. It's somewhere around 250 watts power supply. So it's not the greatest, certainly not the worst. It'll handle spreadsheets like nobody's business. Really speeds up ordering Papa John's, because when I go to Papa John's website on this phone, it takes me about a half an hour to order a pizza because their website sucks that badly. Their website's even slow on the computer. I don't know who's designing their website, but they're an idiot. And they're too much into the flash and the panache and the... No, just let me order my damn pie, I don't need to see the toppings going on the pizza. Just list them. Whatever. Every little thing that they do slows that website down. So, I now have a computer that's capable of ordering pizza in 10 minutes or less. And I decide I want to play games on it. Well, I'm going to need to upgrade it. So, in addition to the $40, I spent another $15 on another 4 gigabytes of RAM, so it now has 8 gigabytes of RAM. I bought a $100 Zotac NVIDIA GT 1030 video card for it, and that was about $100, so I'm up to about $155 that I've put into this machine. And now I can play War Thunder on it. And play War Thunder I did. I love that game. It's a combat flight sim for those of you who don't know. And at least that's what it started out as. They added tanks and then they added Navy. So it's kind of all around. And they started out of World War II. They've brought a lot of things up to Vietnam era. Actually, they've got F-4 Phantom IIs if you've progressed that far. Of course, the only way to progress that far is to play it non-stop 24/7 or spend real-world money on it. So naturally, I'm still stuck with a B-17 being the most recent plane I can buy. But nonetheless, it's a fun game. Great detail. I can get, or I was getting 50 to 60 frames per second at mid-range settings. If I max them out, I get about 20 frames per second. If I bottom them to the floor, I can get 200 frames per second. Or at least I did for about a week. And after about a week, I noticed my frame rate dropping. I figured, well, I just did have an update come out through the game, so maybe they've made it worse again, like they're known for doing. And then it occurred to me, that was the same thing I thought the last time I played the game back years ago, when I had an older rig. And the same things are happening. Frame rate's getting lower, things are getting choppier, and then I noticed something I didn't notice with the last one, with the older computer. Highlights, specular highlights, they started showing up late. Like, I'd have the shape of clouds would show up on the ground as I'm doing a loop or something, you know? And then a little bit later, the highlights were, well, actually before that, the colors were off in certain scenes, but not others. And after that, it got to the point where letters of text were missing from words that were on the screen. So it became obvious that I was looking at a video card failure. After 2 weeks is when it started. And it lasted about another week. And then I'm like, I'm in the game, and I say to people, look, this is my last flight. My video card's dead. Y'all have a good one. And I was doing well in that game. I was getting top 5 in a lot of missions. Simulator mode. I was actually surprised at how well I was doing. And it's because I finally had a system capable of handling the game. But unfortunately, stuff made in China is freaking cheap. Low quality crap sometimes. The brand is Zotac, those of you who are interested. Z-O-T-A-C. I contacted them, got a confirmation email that I had contacted them, and that was as far as it went. I contacted Amazon a day or two later, and of course they're all apologetic. Well, did you try new drivers? Drivers aren't going to fix a hardware failure. I know a hardware failure when I see it. And besides, there's really only one driver for this card. Anything else won't really run the card. And if it won't really run the card, you know, like at the full frame rate, why am I running that driver? Why do I have the card if I can't use it? And then the lady at Amazon is like, well, did you try the other games? What other games? I bought the card so I could play this game. If I can't play this game, why do I need the card? So they sent me my money back, and then some. Actually, they sent me a little more than I actually paid for it. And maybe that was the maximum price of the card over the past 6 months or something. I don't know. But I've got that sitting in my account waiting to be used, and I haven't decided if I'm going to buy another card yet, because I really don't have time for that, and I've got other things that money can go toward. So if I do replace it, it'll be either with an EVGA or a Gigabyte version of the same NVIDIA chip, because I like NVIDIA, at least in Linux, because they make their driver available, even if it's not open source. I don't mind tainting my kernel with a driver for a hardware card that I've paid money for, because as far as I'm concerned, while it may not be open, it is purchased, it is licensed, and it is legitimate. And frankly, ATI just isn't there. For the same price ATI card, I might get half the performance, and I can't see that. I can't see spending money on that. And it's unfortunate, because I really liked ATI. I liked AMD. I prefer AMD processors. I don't like using Intel for everything, because they're like the big behemoth corporation kind of company, right? It's kind of like Amazon and Google. They go and they buy up these other companies. And like, you can't even have, like Ring doorbell was bought by Amazon. So if you had a Ring doorbell, well, now that's an Amazon product. Now they're spying on you, because they want to see what kind of products you're bringing into your house so that they can advertise to you or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but It's coming. And that's one of the reasons I don't like the big companies, and that's one of the reasons why I don't like automatically using whoever the biggest name in a product is, because it feeds that kind of beast. So I prefer AMD and ATI to NVIDIA, but their performance just isn't there for the money. So that's why I'm going with NVIDIA and an Intel processor. I've spent quite a bit of time on PCPartPicker.com looking up processors and whatnot. The rig I want is going to be over $1,000, so I think having a $155 rig, I'll live with that. Actually, since I got my money back, it's really only a $55 rig. So until I put another video card in it, and I haven't decided yet, I might not even get the best I can afford. I might get one about half as good, just so I can play games now and then. But the other reason I haven't been doing any videos is because I've been busy. I've been so busy my fingernails are getting long. Yeah, I know, right? So you may notice I've got a different scenery behind me. Different from my usual. Usually my videos are done either at a computer desk in the den or at my dining room table. But I'm tired of not having access to that dining room table. And like I said, life changes are coming up, and we've got a lot of stuff to focus on. And one of those life changes is me getting this room cleaned out. This was a total dump out here. I had a lot of stuff that I had no place for when I brought it to this house, because it was stuff that I had owned as, you know, a teenager, young adult when I was living with the parents, and stuff my wife owned when she was living with her parents. And then when we moved out here, a lot of that stuff came with us, and we didn't have a place for it, and so this basically became a storage unit that most people would spend $100 a month for, that we had built into our house when we bought it. So yeah, so we were using it as such, and I finally decided, you know what, no, this isn't going to work anymore. I need it cleaned up. I need it organized. I need to get rid of some stuff that we're never going to use, and that I did. And so you can see, I mean, I'm not a hoarder. I actually do have legitimate use for cardboard, such as spray painting things on it. And, you know, there's times when you need to get down on the ground under a car or whatever, and the cardboard helps out, keeping you from getting messed up, scraped up on the concrete and whatnot. Of course, long sleeve shirts help too, but those aren't always available. And there's other things. That's just one example, you know. But I hold on to things that I know are going to be useful, and those things wind up taking up space that could be better used for other stuff. So I got rid of a bunch of stuff. You know, but like holding on to things like prescription bottles. These are great for small parts, tiny screws. I got some. If you ever get into jewelry making, I'm not, but somebody gave me these tiny little ringlets that are good for fastening small things together, like the charms on a bracelet. So I've got those in a prescription bottle. I've got a bunch of eyelets that would be good for holding the pocket clip onto the cap of a fountain pen. I've got those in a bunch of those in a prescription bottle. So prescription bottles come in good and handy for things. If I didn't have the trays, I'd probably be putting these things in prescription bottles. So I hold on to things that are useful. But there's a lot of things that I don't need too, and so I got rid of them. I've got a lot more room in here now. So much more, in fact, that I was able to build a workbench, and that's the other reason for this video, is I wanted to share my workbench. I want to share what I've been up to. It took me a month to build it, whenever I had free time. And, of course, free time means when I'm not watching TV with the family, too, or eating dinner, or cleaning up the house, or taking care of the kids, or... So basically, late nights and weekends is when I had to work on this. So that's why it took me a month to build. And even not every weekend was I able to spend on it. But I kept notes. This is a 60-page notebook, and I'm up to page 55, 56. Yeah, I've got 56 pages of notes on this workbench. And I'd like to make the plans available online. Because I got the idea from one that I saw online, but as I started to play with that idea on paper, looking at ways that I could make it better for my uses, make it bigger, because it was a kind of small workbench that I saw, and it was made out of all 2x4s, and that would be behemoth heavy, and more expensive, because 1x4s are about half the cost of a 2x4. So I decided that I was going to build it out of mostly 1x4 and 2x2 lumber. I do have a few 2x4s for the legs, but of course that's for support, strength. But like I said, I was modifying the plan in my head and modifying it on paper, looking at how I could make it better for me, and I came up with this. So let me share this with you. So as you can see, we've got the 2x4 and 2x2 legs. I did that so that I could get the strength of the 2x4s, the look of it being a little bit wider, without having to worry about notching into it or losing the space, which granted that's not a lot of space, but I just felt that this was better for me. The way the shelves are made, pretty much 1x2s and 1x2s and 1x4s. I alternated them. In hindsight, I would have done it a different way. But you can see I got plenty of space down there, plenty of storage, and that's just some scraps left over. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with those yet. I would like the top to be something other than plywood, but I had plywood on hand, so I used it. And on the left side, I've got storage down there as well, same as the right. You can see that I've got all of my componentry in the back, just like I did on the dining room table. The only difference is I've got a lot more room now that I've moved my oscilloscope out of the way and that stack of equipment. So I don't have my components stacked up one on top of the other anymore. I've got tool storage for the smaller tools, or that's actually not what I intended that little slot to be. I had intended it to be for papers or more fragile tools like straight edges and whatnot. Those are just there temporarily. As you can see, I've got a component stereo system, which I do have one of the components off to the side. It's a cassette deck, and there's also a record player turntable that goes with it that's over behind me. Obviously, I'm not using the turntable or the cassette deck, but you can see how high that goes. That's 8 feet. 8 feet tall at the top. That is a 3-foot commercial electric LED strip, about 4,000K, $15. Just hanging from a couple of arms at the top. The coffee cans, I've got some cables in, random wire and such. You can see I've got my frequency counter, my function generator, the oscilloscope, multimeter, and then down below I've got my power supply. Mainly because it's a heavy one. And then I've got my wife's aunt's old kitchen cabinets that she pulled out when she redid her kitchen a few years ago. You can see I've got some empty storage here. We got a friend who's got a kid that goes through those things like water. So they had a bunch of those boxes, and they knew I could use them, so they brought them to me. Comes in handy. And then I got some storage over here too. I obviously haven't filled up all the storage yet. And one day all of that storage will be eaten up. You probably saw the one surge suppressor between two trays, but I've got a long strip of outlets even behind that. The only thing that power strip has on it is my oscilloscope, power function generator, power supply, and all that crap. So they're all on one thing with one switch. I can turn the whole thing off if I need to. And everything else, the lights, the fan, the heater, the radio, they're all on the strip that's in the back. When I designed it, I wound up with these towers here being a little bit forward of the back, and I didn't realize at the time that that was actually a really good thing. You normally would think that you would want the back of your furniture to be up against the wall, especially if you have a cat. But since the cat doesn't come out here, having it away from the wall a little bit gives me room to run cables, gives me room to run my my power strips, and yes, as far as cables, I do have a little bit of a mess up there, but you know, it is what it is. I'll get that taken care of in time. But I wanted to share it. I wanted to share what I've been up to, what I've made. It's going to be a useful little piece of furniture. And glory be to God, it's not anything of my doing, but I did make this. I designed it. God allowed me to design it. I do fully believe that my thoughts, while they are my own, they wouldn't be there if God didn't let them be there. So, this is something I'm proud of, but I recognize that I'm not the source. This was inspired by another design, and I modified that design, and it evolved into what we have here today. But that's what I've been up to. That's why I haven't had any videos in a while, is because I've just been busy. I've been too busy to do videos. And I'm finally starting to slow down a little bit, and after a few more months go by, I think I may be able to get back into doing a few of them. But we'll see how it goes. Until then, thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you're interested in this kind of stuff. Yeah, I'll have to start figuring out what I'm going to be doing next. But like I said, been really busy. I've got a lot of stuff going on right now, so I don't have time for this. But when I do, I'll definitely share it with you all. Until next time, I'm CJ, your local friendly technology addict, and this has been the Tech Addict's Attic.